Bite-sized and bossy, rising up the ranks, handing out encouragement, deposits in their banks. Inspiration coming at you like a river flowing. Women paving paths, look at them going. Bite-sized and bossy, rising up the ranks, handing out encouragement, deposits in their banks.
This is Tammy. I forget how we usually do it.
This is Chrissy.
And
And
so without Aaron to guide us, this is
Bite-sized
ByteSized&Bossy.
and Bossy. I
We
do
can-
think
we're-
it might be easier with two people.
I do think it is easier with two people. And I was like looking
harmonize.
deep into your eyes
Yes,
through the
yes,
camera.
yes.
So, well, anyways, guys, we are really excited today to have Lauren Fernandez with us. And if you're not familiar with Lauren, you are about to be. And if you are, then you know she's going to drop some knowledge bombs on us today. So let's welcome Lauren to the podcast.
Hi, Lauren.
Hey guys, thanks for having
Hey.
me today.
Yeah.
We're so excited. I've been like hounding to get you on for really since like September. But since we just launched in December, we're happy to have you on in April.
All good, right? We got a lot of folks that have been wanting to do this. So,
Yes.
Lauren, for the audience's benefit, we know a little bit about you, but we would love for you to share with everybody out there sort of who you are and what you do. And then we'll ask some questions about your background after that as well.
Yeah, that's really a good question. So
Who are you?
where
are
to
you?
start? Who am I? Yeah, so I guess professionally, I'm an attorney and an MBA. I've spent most of my career in product development and commercialization in pharma, and for the most of it, I think food and beverage, kind of in the restaurant category. Former general counsel of Focus Brands, now called Go-To Foods. And after that was a multi-unit franchisee myself and founder of the development group that was the largest multi-unit franchisee in the chicken salad chick system. Exited that deal in 2018, and I'm now the CEO and founder of Full Course. We are early stage investors in fast casual restaurant and food brands. And we use an omni-channel development approach to really scale these brands in multiple areas, from company stores to franchising, licensing, product development, non-traditional, et cetera. And we're capital providers, right? So we do a lot of consulting work in this space as growth experts, working with franchised concepts of all sizes, but we're also investors in founder-led businesses, which is very important to me. And so we've been doing that now for almost 6 years, which is crazy to think about. I conceived of the idea for this company. It was sort of a mashup of so many different things that I wanted to do in the restaurant industry. And I actually was pregnant with my son, who's now 5. So when I came up with the concept of what Full Course now is, I was sitting on a dock with my husband and I kind of laid it out for him. And I remember he looked at me and he just said, if you do not do this, nobody else is going to do it. You got to do this. And talk about a mic drop moment. And
Wow.
I never looked back.
That's
Well,
awesome. I got chills on that one. That's
we
so great.
we've done a few of these now, and I'm starting to pick up on some themes. And one of the themes that we hear consistently for very successful women in these senior positions has been that they have a strong partner. So it sounds like you have that as well. Love to hear you comment on that.
I do. And I do not shy away from talking about how awesome and amazing my husband is. And
Aw.
I need to now take this clip and send it to him so he's properly embarrassed. Um,
Do you want to give his name?
no, this is so
We'll go
funny.
find him on
So,
LinkedIn, give him a shout out.
totally. Well, here's what's really funny about it is he's infinitely cooler than I will ever be. He's a retired rock star turned jazz musician and just a true Renaissance man, an extraordinary father and partner, and just my person. I think I have always had such a wonderful structure around me, from my family of origin to my family that I've created, my siblings, my friend family, that have always loved and appreciated me for who I am and encouraged me to be the fullest expression of myself. And I don't think that there's any bigger gift than you can give to anyone than that, right? Like,
Mm.
hey, go out and be your best version of you today. I got you. Like, I got you. And having that in a partner is just so absolutely critical. I literally cannot imagine the success that I've had um, in my career at various points without him, having him next to me and beside me, behind me with that hand on the back, like, hey, I got you. You're good. Just making sure that I know I'm safe, because there are so many scary moments, not just as females, when we're putting ourselves forward as executives and saying
Mhm.
the difficult things while still showing up, working 4 times as hard as everybody else to get it done and get seen, and being moms and being friends and being daughters and caregivers and all these things that we do. It's exhausting. It's hard. It's not easy. And I think we do a great job of just like flipping the hair back and wearing great heels and being like, we're doing it, but it's hard. It's some hard stuff. And I got a
With
whole
a
army of,
smile. Don't forget. Always
Yes.
right.
have
Oh,
it
yes.
with
Better
a
be
smile,
You
smiling.
know,
right? Yeah.
um,
Ac-
and I'm very real about this because I don't ever want other women to assume that I'm just out there crushing it on my own. There's an army of people that make my life possible, whether it's my personal life or my professional life, with my amazing team. So I give credit where it's due. And I'm also very real about that. I mean, it is a constant struggle for balance, being an entrepreneur and a founder and a mom and a wife, all the things,
Wow,
all the
that's
things.
incredible. And kudos to you for verbalizing that and putting it out there and not being afraid to say, you know what? You can't do it on your own. You definitely need an army of folks to A, pull you up, and then B, help you stand at the top when you get there, for sure.
I agree.
So,
That's awesome.
Lauren, it sounds like you are helping other entrepreneurs, but it sounds like
Mhm.
maybe somebody helped you, or how did you get into this like business of helping other entrepreneurs? How did this get started for you?
You
Seed
know,
money? Like, did you go raise money to then help other people raise money?
great question. I've actually never been asked that before. So it's always fun to kind of
Yay. Good
peel
job,
back
Tammy.
the layers of how something happened. Like, how did this happen? I'm gonna keep it very real here. I got to a place in my career where I had to make a really big decision about the highest and best use of my talent and where I could put that in a place that was meaningful for me. And I knew someday I was headed for a CEO seat. I assumed at the time it would be in a restaurant group or, running a brand or something like that. But I kept getting the just a lawyer thing thrown at me, and had a mentor who said to me, like, um, you have everything. You have everything that it takes. You're extraordinary, but you need operations experience. And I was
Mm.
like, oh, it was like the gut punch, right? Because um I had not at that stage in my career come up in the industry, but I also would not have 2 postgraduate degrees if I'd not spent my 20s doing that instead, right? So there was a trade-off for the level of expertise and knowledge I was bringing to the industry and to my job and my seat. However, at the expense of me not having 2 decades worth of ops experience, or even a decade for that matter, right? And a lot of execs in our industry come up through ops, and that's why a lot of them are also men, let's be honest.
Hmm.
And so I found myself at a really interesting crossroads where I was struggling with the notion of staying a general counsel and just trading up to the next biggest company, or a publicly traded company again, and that kind of thing. And it just wasn't sitting right with my soul. And I sat down with a mentor and I said, what do you think I should do? And he said, you need the ops experience, go buy a franchise. And
Oh,
so I bought 3 in a giant territory. Like, why not? Sure. And I really committed to knowing it and understanding it. And I remember the day that we bought the business, I walked in, we called the managers all together in one location. And I walked in from the closing dressed like corporate Barbie, like legitimate, like in heels, perfect hair, the whole thing. And still one of my favorite outfits to this day. And I'll never forget, I sat down there. And they all, like, they had just been through lunch. You could just tell, like, they had just been through a day.
yeah.
And I sat down and I said, look, I know that I don't look this way to you now, but we're going to be exceptional owners. I'm going to prove it to you. And it's going to start with you guys teaching me everything you know, because I don't know. There's a lot of things I do know where I can help this business. But if we're going to right this ship, I'm going to need you to help me understand your life and your job. And then I committed to my partners who were not happy about it. But I said this to them. I'm like, I'm going to be in the field for the next 3 months. Like, I'm going to be gone. Like, I have to turn this around. And I spent the next 3 months in manager gear, non-slip clogs, and I learned those restaurants inside and out. And that was the beginning of a really beautiful relationship with our managerial team, and really my origin story of understanding restaurant ops from the bottom up. Because if you cannot understand why a restaurant is failing and how to rebuild it back up to profitability, I don't know a better way to summarize a good operator right there. I mean, there are so many other components, like the people piece and team leading and building a great team. I mean, I could keep going, but like, you've got to know your unit level economics. And that was my baptism, so to speak, into the like real the reality of owning and operating restaurants, right? And I think from there, it just became part of my passion. We built a really diverse and amazing team, mostly of female operators.
Mhm.
And we kept growing and growing. By the time we exited the business, we were in a female, founded concept, Chicken Salad Chick. We had an almost all female management team. I just had so many experiences on that journey that were profound and powerful to me, that by the time I exited that deal successfully in 2018, it had such an enormous impact on me. It took me like 3 to 6 months to start unpacking it fully.
Wow.
And that's really where I started to feel a passion for making it easier for early stage concepts to get the right capital partner, to figure out the growth a little bit more easily, to reinvest in their people without a ton of pain, and reduce turnover and promote talent, et cetera. So I saw it as problems that needed to be solved in an industry that I cared about. Like, I really deeply care about this industry. These are my people. This is my lane. I found my place. I just found a place. And then I'll be honest, I explored a number of different ways to do this before I landed on full course, because I understood the enormity of what we were trying to build, and that no one else had done it at that point. And that's scary, right? That's
Yeah.
not an easy thing to go, you know what, I'm going to take a bite out of this apple. But we were basically saying, we're going to go like plant an apple tree, mature it, harvest it, and then eat a bunch of apple pie. And that is a completely different animal than just saying, I'm going to go solve this one problem. And
Yeah.
I think the courage for that moment, honestly, I shared with you what my husband said to me, but I knew in my soul that I was at a place in my career that the highest and best use of my talent again was going to be a role and a situation that I created.
Yeah,
And
that
I,
makes sense. And we hear that also as a theme, is I created it, right? Chrissy, how many times have we heard this? I
Yeah,
can think
a
of a
bunch.
few
Yeah,
guests. And
absolutely.
where when we're seeing a great success for a female in our space, it's not so much that they've been waiting for somebody to give them this opportunity. But I mean, Jennifer Dodd told a great
yeah,
story from
Yeah.
Main Squeeze Juice, and how she just basically decided, I wanted to be a CEO, and realized that the private equity guys were hiring all of them. So I went and networked with them.
Mm-hmm.
So I think that that's, sort of incredible there. When you are looking for a brand to work with, I mean, are
mhm,
you looking for them, or are they coming to you? What's that process? And if someone out there is
yeah,
listening that fits your profile, like, what's that profile? Who do you want to meet?
yeah. So we typically do not do outbound lead generation or go knock on the door of a founder or a great restaurant. One of the really easy ways to explain that is, I've been an owner of a business. I've been over solicited in my restaurants, and it is just gross and not fun. And so we never want to be that person that's just adding to that pile of people who are leaving you annoying voicemails and sending you junk emails. Every once in a blue moon, I will just obsess over a brand, and I will just shoot my shot at a founder. I have actually legitimately slid into DMs. I swear to God. Um, I just don't want to work. I don't want to like have a moment. True, true story. That's how I got back in touch with our CMO, Lauren Barish. Like, I didn't know where she was. She had jumped to a different job, and I didn't have a current email address for her what I thought was the right cell phone number. But she and I were friends on Insta, and I'm like, and she tells this hilarious story where I
That is
forgot that I did this,
hilarious.
but I legit slid into her DMs on Instagram. This is a
That
true story.
is
I was
hilarious.
like, "What are you doing? We need to catch up. Here's my number. Let's talk." And now she's just an absolute badass in her seat, and I adore her. But truly, I do that only once in a blue moon where I really genuinely believe in a concept. It resonates with me. I love it as an investor. And I feel like there's a genuine need for that kind of founder led business. I will slide into DMs. I will send an email. I will find someone to talk to if I can. It happens rarely, but generally speaking, I only do that because I just don't want to hear a story like 2 years down the road of how they took a wrong path with a capital partner or closed because they didn't have money.
Mm.
That stuff makes me sick. So when I see stuff that I feel is a shining star, I will reach out. It very rarely gets me anything.
Oh,
Same.
Chrissy and I are in
Same.
sales, so
I get
we're
Same.
so ghosted. I don't have that riz, I guess, where people
Ah,
actually respond to me, but I will, they probably don't realize it's actually me. I'm like, no, it's really me.
yeah.
I love the terms. You're sliding into the DMs, you've got the
Yes.
Riz.
Totally.
Do you have a teenager or are
I
you just
do. I have
that
a
cool?
14-year-old stepdaughter, so she sort of keeps me hip.
She
Um,
keeps you really
Yeah,
hip, actually.
I'm like, can she hang out with me for a while? Because I'm not cool either.
oh my God.
I have to like Google some of the things that like I hear my teens say. I'm like, what is this word she's using? So Google is my friend.
They have a generational translator now that's like this wheel that you can spin and you lock in like what your generation is and then you spin it to like
Oh my
the
gosh.
generations. It
Ah,
is
I love
amazing.
this.
If you haven't seen it, it's so funny. I need to buy it
Have
for my
your
father-in-law.
kid have your kids done the TikTok challenge to you yet where they put water in their mouth and then you're supposed to read like these terms
Oh
and
yeah.
use them? Yeah, that's
I've
hilarious. That's
seen that.
really
That's
funny.
hilarious.
Yeah.
Oh no,
I
my
have a quick
husband's
question about your venture with Chicken Salad Chick.
yeah.
So when you franchised with them, they were
Mhm.
three existing stores, right?
We bought 3 existing franchised stores that were in the
Okay.
Atlanta market. It was Roswell, Alpharetta, and Kennesaw, but they were already franchised at that point.
Yep.
But those were very early units in the system. I think like one of the stores was number 6, one
Oh,
was number
wow. Okay.
9, and I think the other one was number 11.
Hmm.
By the time we exited 3 years later, the last store that I built was number 98 in sequence in the franchise system. Just
So
to
how
So
many
it's
stores
growing
did you
fast.
have when you were done?
11 traditional units,
Hmm.
3 non-trad, a fully sort of separate catering vertical, and we were also the test market for all the delivery for the brand at that time.
Wow.
And then we also had we had shovel in the ground in 2 and a third that we were about to sign a lease on that we just handed to them as part of the
Wow.
transaction. Mhm.
Yeah.
So
That's
we were like banging out about 3 to 4 units a year at that pace at that time.
that's a lot.
I'm
Yeah, it
still
was a lot.
picturing her coming in dressed as like basically business Barbie and telling the line team that, hey, I'm your new owner because we know what that probably looked like in the restaurant.
I knew. I was so aware though. It was unintentional, but I owned it in a way that if you know me and my sense of humor is super like, I don't know, sarcastic and self-deprecating. Like I freaking owned the corporate Barbie thing. Like I just said it. I'm pretty sure I said something like that and they all
That's
laughed.
Well,
And
funny.
then
so
I just showed up, like I just showed up. And I think that's like part of the
Mhm.
game, right? Like you just show up, your actions always speak louder than your words. And I'll just say that. Like I
yeah.
just showed up. I put in the time, I put in the work, and I loved it. I fell in love with the whole notion of mastering the operations, of understanding the numbers and connecting the dots between the ops and the numbers. And God, I loved opening restaurants. I was so good at it. I just really loved all the construction and the site selection and getting it all kind of put together and the team, picking the team. I was very happy at that. I really loved it. I probably could have done it for another 10 years. It just wasn't, it was just the right time to exit that deal. And it wasn't my forever job, just,
Yeah.
Mhm.
you know, had other things to do, I guess.
You are going to be at a really cool event in June that I feel like a lot of women in our space is not familiar with this event. I've known about
Mhm.
this event for a couple of years now. But why don't you share a little bit about Fab
Hmm.
with
Yeah, I've never heard
Tammy?
of it.
No, you haven't. And our listeners, because I think there are a lot of people who tune into our podcast that could really benefit from what goes on at Fab.
Yeah, so Fab is an incredibly and impeccably well curated event for women by women. Randy, the founder who puts it on every year, just does a great job of curating the content. I would say that that audience is a lot of chefs, owner owned concepts, some rapidly scaling concepts, some multi concept developers. But I have just made some of the most amazing friends there, and just had such great conversation with so many different women from very differing backgrounds in the industry.
Hmm.
So, whereas I think in restaurants and franchising, we have our sort of normal lanes of the conferences we all go to, and they're wonderful. And, shout out to Whirl, like, there's a lot of other female focused events out there.
Hmm.
I think what differentiates Fab is it's a community that attracts the chef as well as the sort of owner operator, as well as sort of the emerging director and above, talent.
Yep.
It's adorably located.
Yes.
It is so precious. She always just does such a great job of hosting it across multiple different venues. So you get to really see the town. You get to eat your way through the, I mean, I've had, I was sort of like, people go to Vegas and think they're being gluttonous. I go to Fab and I'm gluttonous. There's so much
Mm.
amazing food, and
So
it's
much amazing
very,
food.
very
Yes.
like chefy, which is just like so right up my lane.
Yes.
It is a phenomenal event. I can't say enough good things about it. I think I'm speaking 3 times again this year,
Hmm.
on capital sourcing, pitching, and I think there's a panel on sort of current economic and political consequences for restaurants. Like, what can you expect of the current environment, and how is it going to impact your business? So, really pleased to be a part of it and support it, as an educator, especially.
Yep. So, and
Mhm.
Tammy, it's awesome. It's every year they hold it in Charleston, South
Yes, I didn't
Carolina.
say that. It's in Charleston. It's
Well, I
Yes.
was
amazing.
guessing that it was somewhere that Chrissy had been because I was
Yes.
like, she knows about this and it says it's cute. So,
Yes, it's such a great event. I've known about Fab for probably maybe like 5 years now,
Mhm.
and I have gotten to attend a couple of different times, and it's wildly different than our typical events that we attend. And
Mhm.
it's a lot of women chefs that we don't get to normally see. So I think that's always fun. But yeah, and Lauren is speaking 3 times there. So that's fun.
well, so we understand the barrage of painful emails and phone calls from salespeople, and if you don't do a lot of outbound, then how do you find these new concepts? Like,
Yeah, we didn't
what's
finish
your?
that thought. Yeah.
Mhm.
Great question. So, candidly, it took us a couple years to unpack and unlock this cheat code, if you will. But what we have found is that being thought leaders and courageous thought leaders at that, and saying the thing that nobody wants to say and saying it in an educated, responsible manner that also has solutions focused is sort of my jam and my personal mantra, but it also has by default become sort of full courses playbook as well. So whenever we have an opportunity to show up and be that voice in the room that sees things a little differently, that says the uncomfortable thing, and that provides actionable solutions for people in the industry so that we can move forward and past a lot of the difficult things that we're dealing with even right now, we take those opportunities even at our own expense. And so I think primarily we always focus on that message of education and solution forward. And that means that's true if we're on a stage. It's true if we're writing a thought piece. It's true if I'm posting something to LinkedIn. It's true if it's up on our Insta, right? And we just sort of approach all of it with that lens of how can we better the industry in which we are. And I just personally don't want to waste anyone's time with more idle chatter about the same stuff. I just find that abhorrent. Like, I'd rather further the conversation and have it be a little heated than for it to be the same old dribble again,
Yeah.
right? Which,
People get up
you
on
know,
these panels though, and they're afraid to say something, or they're pretty generic. And so I like our company, we've been hosting this month
mhm,
webinar every other month, where we're bringing in basically leaders in the industry to have legitimately candid conversations.
yes.
So like I think you would be a great, person for us. We're bringing in new panelists and new moderators, and we've been doing it every other month, and we're basically trying to address some of the stuff that's happening nationally, to provide education. So we had like Joe Kefauver from like Public Aligned Strategies, and he's got a great sense of what's happening politically. We had him on in January. Last month we had John Hamburger and Emily Williams
Mhm.
Knight, and so we haven't actually solidified our panel yet for May, but I'd love to put your name in the hat, if not for this one, for another one.
Heard 100%. And I will
Mhm.
offer up my team too if you need any subject matter experts on anything, right? If
That's
it's not
Always.
amazing.
me, happy to voluntold any one of them. Um,
Voluntold. I love, Tammy, that you guys are doing that, because I feel like I've been to a million of these conferences, and I've listened to 10 million panels while at these million conferences. And I was having like a download yesterday, and I think you caught some of the end of my download yesterday evening
I
when you
got her
asked
rant.
me when you asked me about the latest event that we went to. And I think that somebody needs to say it out loud, and I'm going to right here.
I'm gonna say it with you.
Yes, please start having people on these panels that can talk about the problems, and people who can talk about the solutions. Not just the CEOs that are looking at things from like a 10,000-foot view. That doesn't really help any of us,
Or the
right?
vendors.
Yeah.
These
And
sales pitch panels are, I'm over it.
yeah, it's and the same people saying the same thing over and over and over. Let's talk about real stuff that's really happening and that's really affecting the industry. And how can we help these people solve it? And Lauren, I think that you do a really great job at that by having those candid
Mhm.
conversations.
well, I think that's my job. It's not like it's my brand.
It is
I,
your brand though. It
I
is your
guess, but like it's not intentional. And that's what I'm trying to tell you. Like people are like, well, how do you get all these leads? Where does your pipeline come from? And I'm like, I just go out and run my mouth. Like I'm a nerd. I over index on reading everything. I consume raw data like they're cookies. Like it's insane. Like
Oh, that's awesome.
I am have a voracious appetite for wanting to learn and understand. And I think one of my skills that was honed by being a lawyer is that, right? Like all the voluminous research and synthesizing it together in a way and then communicating it out so everyone can understand and
Hmm.
wrap their head around the concept. So then we can spend our time talking about a solution.
Yeah.
And so I think that tone, whatever we are doing as full course, and whether it's me speaking or someone else on the team, and that attitude that we have as a company of helping solve problems that are in front of the vast majority of our industry, which our target, when we're talking to the people that we want to invest in, they're usually founder led businesses, they're owners, operators. Maybe it's in the hands of the first or the second generation. And they're usually somewhere between 3 and 5 units. That is,
Hmm.
what, like 85% of the million restaurants in the
Mhm.
US are in
Yep.
the hands of one owner and less than 3 units.
Yep.
That's bananas,
Yeah.
right? So one of the things that happens when we go to these conferences is we have a distorted sense of reality because you see a bunch of vendors out there
Yes.
and it's like, who can afford this stuff? This is great stuff. Thank you. But it's so geared towards the big chains. It's
Yep.
geared towards larger, either company owned or large franchise organizations, which is fine. I understand how the engine works. I mean, look, I love franchising. I'm not knocking it. I'm just saying, I think that the reality is it draws a certain type of attendee as well. And so that is not always representative of what's really going on in the industry and what
Mm-mm.
people are experiencing. And that's one of the things that I think full course as a team that we bring to the table. We're operators first, right?
Mhm.
We're growth specialists second, and then we're investors, right? So we really understand it from the bottom up instead of the top down. And I think that shifts your point of view And I will also say that I think that I have embraced recently that there's a certain element or secret ingredient in what we do, and it's empathy and understanding, right? Is that if you have that operator's shoe and you've walked in those shoes, you've done that,
Yep.
right? You just have a different level of understanding of how difficult it is and how hard it is to scale. And that's why we are out there trying to solve for these problems that come up every single day.
And
I
I've
think
I
Whether
even in
go ahead,
uh,
Chrissy.
I think even in like mine and Tammy's position, I find that I feel more successful because I have been inside the four walls, right? I spent from 15 to probably 36 years old inside the four walls, whether it
Mhm,
was a fast casual or QSR or full service restaurant,
mhm,
in all aspects. And like I can speak their language when I'm talking to them about
Mhm.
their operations and their workflow and how to implement the tech and how to get the most out of it. So I think that that goes a long way versus probably some of your competition who probably have never set foot in a restaurant other than to be a patron.
It's funny to me when I see these people, men, women, people, vendors, whatever, operators, but that come into the industry, especially on the tech side, and they're going to solve all of restaurants' problems, and they've never even stepped foot in a restaurant or understand how it works. And so, like when we hire, on a vendor side, we look for people that have
Same.
operator experience. It's really
Mhm.
important to us, so that we do have that empathy, and that is one of the ways that we position and sell ourselves. It's like for restaurant people by restaurant people.
Yep.
And every time I see these folks come in from outside the industry, I call them restaurant tech tourists. Every time I see a tourist, I'm like, okay, how long till your visa expires? I'm probably going to get some tomatoes thrown at me for that one.
Tammy, I did not know this, but I love that. When's your visa expiring?
Well, no, yeah, but it's true. There's a big differentiator in that. And like I think I told the story before about how I was at Soho House. A friend of mine was a C-suite there and had invited me. And one of his GMs comes up and he's like, "How?" He's like, "I got a baby. I just got married. How do I get out of the restaurant?" And I was like, "That's a real question, right?" And
mhm.
so, and he's a guy asking that, so I really applaud that. And I said to him, I said, "Start talking to your vendors.
Mhm.
Somebody's selling you napkins, somebody's selling you this, somebody like talk to those people because they're going to value the experience that you will bring."
Yep.
So I try to really foster that vendor and operator relationship and try not to come off as one of those people that send all those crazy emails and text messages. And I refuse to cold call
I've
Those
people.
been
are,
So
listen, I think that you just tapped on something that's really important to say out loud is I have benefited from always taking the call from the vendor and understanding their product and connecting into the right person on our team and making recommendations. And over the years, built a very deep strategic network of vendors and suppliers that we know, love, and trust are in deep partnership with. And they actually do as much work for us as as full course out there telling people about what we do and evangelizing about full course to their targets and to their customers. It's almost like, I hate that I'm saying this, but it's like I don't even need a sales force. Like I really
you
like
sounds like you don't.
That's
they are
amazing.
amazing. And I just want to say this because I think sometimes we don't give that part of our industry enough credit. They're the people that make conferences possible, right?
Mhm.
Those
100%.
dollars that go into supporting all of the things that are sold to restaurants. It's easy to sit here and be critical of, have the owner perspective, like, oh my God, my phone's ringing off the hook. Oh my God, why are they in my restaurant right now? I'm trying to close. Like, just whatever and be critical about it. But I have always taken them as partners no matter what. And that has worked exceedingly well for me in my career because I learned just as much from them along the way about solving problems in the industry, how they position their product, just whatever it is. And when we have issues, it's not uncommon for us to call up a vendor and be like, "Hey, have you seen this before? Like, how did you solve for this? Does your product solve for
Yep.
this? And if you
Mm.
were the owner operator, like what would you do?" Because there's a lot of expertise running around out there and a lot of companies that are a part of our industry but serve it. And
Yeah.
that is an often overlooked thing. right? I
Yeah.
just want to say it.
I do
And
feel bad. I saw another like CMO just yesterday ranting about how her email box was overflowing with like sales pitches and the constant follow up and the constant follow up. And one of the things that stood out to me is that she said, when we go looking for tech, we contact our friends that are in the industry.
Mhm.
And so it's like, from somebody who's pitching a product, how do you overcome that hurdle, right? And kudos to you, Lauren, for taking the calls and for building those relationships, because it's incredibly important to the brands that you're working with, but also like
yeah.
to people like me and Tammy who are sending those emails trying to get somebody's attention.
Yeah. So look, I think there's look, I will say this. I took a lot of those calls when I had more time, and I just don't anymore.
Yep.
And I really struggle with just sort of the cold email approach. If I've met you and we've shook hands and you've been at a conference and we have a rapport, I will always respond to that email. I'm pretty good about that. And if I didn't, I'm sure somebody will call me out. But like I do my best. I get hundreds of emails a day, and it is difficult, but I will just say I think that always being kind and understanding that they are just doing their job
Mhm.
is sort of the place to start from. And I hate to go back to this again, but it's just sort of having empathy and
Yeah.
understanding.
Yeah.
Like we're all trying to do our jobs in a very difficult industry in a very difficult time. That said, I am especially open to helping other women in our industry. And that's true whether they are at a vendor or supplier, or they need help, or they need a favor, or they need a referral. And I just always think about this as life is a series of karmic exchanges. Like it is just about the energy that you put out into the world. And I had someone tell me once, well, that's a relationship. You're putting money, you're putting a deposit into a relationship bank. And I thought about that for a really long time. That would be true if I felt like I'm going to get something back from you someday, but I don't ever treat it like that. I don't treat it as an exchange. Like I just treat it as like, if I were in your shoes, how would I want to be treated right now? Right. And I do believe that doing good turns for people shows up for you in spades in places that you would never imagine. And you can call it karma if you want. But I also just am very mindful of the kind of example I want to set. And I realize that I'm in a place in my life, in my career, and in our industry where the way I act and I behave matters.
Yep.
Mhm.
It should be an example. And maybe I'm even too hard on myself in the way that I hold myself to that standard.
Mm.
And maybe it takes a little bit more time for me to return emails at 7 o'clock at night, but I'm still going to do it because until I can't anymore, I believe that that's part of setting an example of how we be collaborative and supportive of each other in this industry, but as women as well.
I love
You're
that.
incredible, Lauren.
You are. You really are. I'm fangirling a little
I know.
bit.
I'm just
I'm
like, we
not
could
gonna
keep going
lie.
and
I
talking to you
know.
forever, but
I
uh
don't know. I feel really
we
badly
got
because
to
it's like the end of the week and you guys are getting like the
no.
burnout Friday version, 4 p.m. version of
Do
Lauren. I'm
you
like,
want to
oh
hit
God.
pause and grab a cocktail? I mean, we could just step away and do that real quick. I don't know what time zone you're in, but
No,
That's
I'm
so
good. I'm
funny.
good. It's tempting, but I'm good. I got to get my son in a little bit. So we're good.
fair enough. Well, Chrissy, should we move along? What do
Yes,
you
let's
think?
do a little food for thought. We initially we're gonna do this as rapid fire, but as women, we apparently cannot do that very fast. And it always turns into like a conversation. But we always like to find out. We found out a couple of really interesting things. I was a little shocked about your husband being an ex
Mhm.
rock band member, and that's so
Yeah.
cool. And we probably would have never ever known that unless we had you on the podcast. Um, so that's super cool. But we love to do a few fun things. So my first question for Lauren is, you work really hard. You've
Mhm.
worked really hard throughout your career. Um, what is a guilty pleasure?
Oh my goodness. Um, if I have time to myself, like absolutely to myself, and no one is bothering me, and I don't need to be like putting the brain to work while I'm doing something else.
So never.
I know, no, this is true. Okay. Yeah, my hobby is my business.
Yep.
No, no. Honestly, like I'm a compulsive crafter. Like I know this is going to sound so nerdy, but what really relaxes me, I've always been a bit of like a materials artist and I have like 4 sewing machines and an entire craft room in our home. I'm so like my
Wow.
husband insisted. He's like if I get a music studio in this house, like you need an art studio, you and the kids. And I was like, yeah, okay, cool. And I'm so grateful that he kind of like made me do that. So
I
that is
love
a
it.
big part for me, like just of being creative and having that outlet. So if I'm truly left to my own devices, that is sort of my thing. But if I'm truly going to be honest here, I'm a working mom. I very rarely do have that kind of time where the craft isn't like seconded by a child, like a child's need
Yes.
for a craft or a project or something like that. My husband will endlessly mock me for this, but I am a voracious reader and I love all things like kind of period related. Like think Austen, you
Hmm.
know, anything like sort of in that era and time zone. Like I will watch it on TV. I will watch the adaptations. I will watch the documentary about the behind the scenes. I'm an English lit nerd. That's actually one of my degrees from undergrad. And so I'm a nerdy book chick, like all
Oh,
the
I
way.
love it. I love
That's
I
it.
will
awesome.
listen to business books on tape and podcasts and things like that. But when it comes to reading, I'm an oldie. Like I love the sort of English period lit
Okay,
kind of
so my rapid fire question will be, what's your favorite book? What's the book you can
stuff.
read over and over again?
Oh my gosh. That's such a great question.
If it's too
Um,
much, we can find something else, but
No, I mean, I really love Mansfield Park, and
okay.
I think that's like a lesser known Austen, and I
Hmm.
mean, I could just be basic and say Pride and Prejudice, but I just love the wit, the sardonic humor, and just the brilliant social commentary that is in her exquisite writing style. And that is again, like it's not a chick lit thing for me, it's an English lit nerdy thing.
Mm.
Like I just love that level of social commentary. It's the same reason I love Toni Morrison's work, like I just that kind of female empowered voice with the technical expertise and execution of the writing is my sweet spot. So those are the books that I have on my shelf that I've had since I was like 20 something and are like broken in, if you know what I
Oh,
mean. Like
yeah.
Yes.
pages falling out, spine broken. And my husband's like, let me
Uh,
get you a new one. I'm like, no,
So if
no,
we ever
this
stumble
is the
across like a
copy.
first generation, we need to get that for you and
snag it
ship it
for
over, huh?
you. Yes.
Yeah,
That's
I know that
awesome.
that's so like basic, but it's so
No,
baked
not
into
at
my
all.
DNA because like that's what I studied in college. That's where like one of my big loves it. I have so many books in me that I've not written. You don't even know. Like half started outlines. There's a version of me in like 10 years that is pumping out books.
That
No,
is so
actually, I think
funny.
that's a great we don't we have more questions or not, but I think that's a great sort of way to end this is sort of what is in your future. It's one thing. And then
Mhm.
I think because we're running close on time here.
Mm.
We would love for you to nominate somebody else to come on the show. So our goal here is simply to provide an avenue for women to share their stories and for it to be uplifting and positive and lighthearted. And so if you can think of somebody who has a great story to tell or would
Mm.
be worth other people hearing that story, we would love for you to just shout it out here, and we'll do our best to either get an intro from you or have them reach out to us.
I'm gonna think on that one while I'm answering the question. So Um, I think future state for Lauren, we're working now on the growth and scale of the company. It's something I've actually put a lot of thought into recently. Like what is sort of the next version of my leadership for full course look like? And what am I going to do with that sort of extra time? And I say that kind of jokingly because
I was like, you have extra time.
is there really ever any extra time? No. Yeah, so I really want to lean into being more visible and available for women and in a way that I feel like I can be a more visible example. And that means sort of getting over it and getting on stages more and speaking more and having these candid and real conversations and more opportunities. Maybe we stand up our own podcast. We've sort of talked about that a number of times, but haven't had the time and the, resources to put behind that. I do think there's probably a book in there somewhere. I
I think
do,
so too.
maybe
Oh, that's
two, just even about my
awesome.
journey in this industry. And I really want to lean into more of our nonprofit work. I think that there's still a lot of work to do there in providing education for women, minorities, for everyone in the industry so that the career paths are there. And that's something I'm very passionate about. But again, haven't had time and resources to put behind that. So I see myself sort of doubling and tripling down on a lot of the things that I'm doing now, but in a bigger scale, if you will. Um, and we have a couple concepts that we've been kind of kicking around internally. Like, should we just develop this on our own because we can't find it out there? So
Mm.
I wouldn't be surprised either if we start incubating some of our own concepts internally, just as a sort
Oh,
of
that's so cool.
That makes sense.
interesting way of approaching it. Not
Mhm.
not that there's not plenty of amazing concepts out there to develop, but sometimes they're just not a right fit or they're not built the way that we want. Um, I'm going to shout out one woman in particular who has just really meant a lot to me and been so supportive. And she sits on our board, and I'm super proud of her. But Meredith Sandland just got promoted. She's
Yes, we
into,
love
you guys
her.
know her?
I do.
Yes.
Yeah.
Oh my
Yeah.
God. I just have just such a huge spot in my heart for her. I just adore her. I see her as a friend, a peer, and a mentor. And that's a hard like one to come by, where
Yeah.
I just really look up to her, but also just get so much out of her as being my friend and my supporter. And I'm just enormously proud of her in her new role at Starbucks and what
It's
she's going to
amazing.
do to help them, and everything that she's done in her career in this industry to further really cool development, whether that
Mhm.
was at her time at Taco Bell or in her digital space, Kitchen United and Empower Delivery. And
Mhm.
I have so much mad respect for her as a working mom and just being constantly on the edge of pushing growth and
Mhm.
innovation in this space. And I think she'd be so great if we could get her on here.
Yeah.
Well, Meredith and Carl have their own podcast, and
I know.
so I'm gonna text her after this and just basically say, "Hey, you got a shout out, and you're next in line."
That's right.
Because I did when I heard the news. Because when I was reading and sort of in the details, I was like, "Oh, this isn't her taking a job. This is her getting acquired," and it kind of went like it was really quiet. It was more about the job. And so when I
Yeah.
read the details, I texted her. I was like, and I think I even made a comment or reshared it like, this is not just someone getting a job.
Mm-mm. No.
This is somebody who chased a dream and, worked really, really
Look at
hard
me. Like
over a 2 year period.
I just
Yeah,
can't
we're
stop smiling.
fangirling
Like,
over
I'm
Meredith.
so
Yes.
proud of her.
Yeah.
There's this piece of it. Like, I understand the deep and profound courage that it takes to do these things these
Yeah.
big jumps that she's made in her career into different categories, into slightly
Mhm.
different roles. And I think that that is part of the reason why I just have such enormous respect for her and really idolize her in probably an unhealthy way at this point. But um, she's gonna laugh so hard when she hears this. But
When she
no,
hears this, yes.
I know, I really do. And she's always just, she is one of those friends that just has the quiet and calm wisdom every single time.
Hmm.
And I am so lucky that she agreed to sit on our board because what she does in those environments is anchor
Hmm.
Mm.
a very vibrant and diverse and colorful group of people who all have different points of view. She's the one there that like does the thing where she's like, well, I think we need to think about, and the whole room goes,
She's very, she's very
like,
diplomatic. Yep. Yep.
but yeah, she's my nom. She's my nom. Let's see if we can get her on. So
Yes,
Well,
we
I
will reach out for
it'll
sure.
just be a matter of time. I'm sure she'll
Yes.
do it.
Yes.
Well, Christy, you want to take us out?
Yes, it has been amazing to fangirl at you and with you today. I'm so excited that you did take some time out of your super busy schedule to share your knowledge bombs, to share about full course and your journey. and some fun facts about you that everybody can. So if somebody comes up to you like at a conference, they're like, "Oh, your husband is a rock star," or you love English lit, like don't be surprised, right? But thanks again so much. It's been
Yeah.
amazing having you. Um, we will we'll have you up in a couple of weeks. And if you don't mind to share and like and subscribe and all of those good things, that would be fantastic. And that is a wrap for today with Lauren
Awesome.
Fernandez.
Yep.
Thanks, guys. This is so
Yeah,
fun. What a
thank
great way to
you.
close out the week. I appreciate you.
I know. We
Aw.
just needed a cocktail. That's it.
That's up next. Okay.
ByteSized&Bossy, you're rising up the ranks, handing out encouragement, deposits in their banks. Inspiration coming at you like a river flowing. Women paving paths, got them going.